Hey y'all, this is Jessica with Bless Your Heart. Let's do a blue and white ombre today. We're going to start with the spray painted 20-ounce tumbler, and I used Rustoleum Ultra Matte White and Ink Blue. I'm going to use the epoxy method to adhere my glitter today, and my glitter choices today are Mr. Fancy Pants Gypsy Soul and the Glitter Guy Hades and Ice. I'm going to start with Gypsy Soul because it's just a chunky, and I'm going to kind of sporadically put this all over the cup, and once I'm happy with that coverage, we're going to get to doing our ombre. For the ombre, we're going to start with our darkest color, which is the blue, and we're going to go full coverage around the very bottom and that very bottom rim. And then we're going to tilt our cup. With an ombre, the further you tilt your cup, the further down the cup the glitter will go. So if you just want a slight ombre, do a slight tilt. If you want a steep ombre where it's almost completely centered where the blend is, tilt it almost vertical. Once we're happy with that blue coverage, we're going to move on to the white, and we're going to kind of do the exact same thing, full coverage around that very top rim. And at first I'm going to go in and just go full coverage along the top part of that cup. I am not going to tilt my cup until I get closer to the blue. I want more of this white to show than I want the blue to show underneath my decal. So once I get the majority of that covered, then I'm going to tilt. And this is almost a vertical tilt because I want that white to go into that blue a lot more than I want the blue to come into the white. When you're happy with the glitter coverage, go ahead and put a couple of layers of epoxy to smooth everything out. And now that we're smooth, we can move on to whatever our next step is going to be. I am going to lay down some UV DTFs. And I want to layer these because I want there to be a lot of these Bluebonnets on this cup. I'm going to go in and kind of cut the UV DTF down so it looks as cohesive and seam-free as possible. I'm not going to be doing anything else to this cup other than putting a name on it, so I do need to camouflage that as best as possible. Once I'm happy with how I have that cut up and kind of going to be seam-free, I'm going to place this on my cup. Now with UV DTFs, you are pretty much a pick it and stick it type thing. You cannot really remove them. They're supposed to be permanent. So I'm going to use the hinge method, and I'm going to do my best to line this up. I am not really worried about them being straight. I'm worried about them being nice and balanced. Once I get it placed, I'm just going to use my squeegee to kind of press this onto the cup, and then you want to go back over the whole image with the other side of the squeegee, the harder side of the squeegee, and you really want to kind of push that image into the cup, burnish it down if you will. You really want to make sure that all of the adhesive is really sticking. Sometimes in lower quality prints, part of that image will come up and you really have to battle with that. But if you get a good quality print, you don't really have to worry about that much. Now that we have that one on, let's move on to the second layer. And we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to go in and kind of cut off a few flower petals or a leaf or something like that, just to kind of make it, like I said, a little bit more cohesive. I am going to try to put one of these taller flowers over my first cut marks, but I don't really think in the end you're going to be able to tell and it's not going to matter. But we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to cut around so we are as seamless as possible. We're going to use the hinge method to press this on. We're going to burnish that image down as best we can, and then we're going to check out our handiwork. I think we're making a pretty cute cup here. So now we're going to move on to the name. And I have made just a simple offset in a really shiny blue with the top just being a basic white. So I'm going to get my decal lined up as best I can. And as always, I'm going to use the parchment method for that. So I'm going to take the backing off the top of my decal. I'm going to place that on the parchment, and then I'm going to place the parchment on the bottom decal, which is the offset. I'm going to line that up as best I can by sight. I'm going to slip the parchment out, and then I'm going to end up with a good lined up decal that's going to be ready to go. Once you're ready to place the name on your cup, you do want to make sure that you get it in a very smooth spot, which we should be pretty smooth all over. And once we get this placed and we're happy with how this tumbler looks, we are going to epoxy the whole thing until smooth. And here we go. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.